Welcome to the Who's Your Caddy podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Singh. In this episode, we will be discussing the Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches. Seems like a weird title to me. That's okay. But my co-host Adam's going to give us some background on the course. We'll give you some of our favorite picks to help you build your DFS lineups this week. Let's get right into it. Probably. Go. This podcast is meant to help you take your DFS golf game and even some prop bets to the next level. So whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, we hope that you will find this podcast helpful. And before I get too far ahead of myself, let me bring in my co-host, Mr. Adam Hallas, the grapes to my wine. How are you?
You could have said the grapes to your wrath. That would work too.
That actually works a little bit better. Just kidding. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. How you doing?
I've had a little wine tonight. Speaking of wine, a little wine.
I see. So that's why you used the grapes of wine.
It was fresh on my mind. And
Are you a Cabernet?
Yes, Pinot? I am a Cabernet. Yes, I am. But then I'm going straight into a Vista Bay Ruby Grapefruit Hard Seltzer.
That is a lot of stuff to put on a label.
Refreshing.
Nice.
How was your week? What have you been up to?
Week's been going pretty good. Getting ready for this tournament and trying to figure out how on some platforms it's still read the Honda, and now it says Cognizant. And if you're not aware, after 40 years or so of sponsoring this, Honda has gone away and Cognizant has come in and go, hey, we're the new kid on the block. And
what is Cognizant?
Well, I don't know.
Me either.
It sounds like a pharmaceutical company.
I have no idea. It's not Honda.
Anyway, but the PGA was like, we'll throw you a bone. So we'll have Rory show up.
Oh, it's an elevated event. I did read that.
Yeah. So that's what they did. It was like, hey, it's your first shot. I know we're taking away kind of the big sponsor here. So yeah, they elevated it.
That just means that there's more money in the purse.
There's more money. I think there's for the bigger players, if they miss it, there's a financial punishment that happens. So like last year, if you remember, I think Rory missed an elevated tournament and he was fined X amount of dollars.
Well, he's there this year and he is not cheap.
He is not cheap. He does well this course. I'm not going to play him.
Let's talk about the course and then we can talk about Rory. What are we going to behold this week in the Cognizant Classic at the Palm Beaches?
Well, it is being played at the National, as what they call the PGA Champions course. And it is one of the top 14 hardest courses on tour. It is a tough 7,100-yard course that has water into 15 holes and 60 bunkers. Shit is going to get weird this week. One of the holes turned from a long par 4 to a short par 5. There is a bear trap, and I believe it's 15, 16, and 17. Because, of course, this is a Jack Nicklaus design. And since it's in Palm Beach, wonderful Palm Beach, Florida, where we hike up our pants and complain about the government full time, wind can play a factor in the tropical climate. The cut will more likely be a +2, +3 cut. It's possible it even goes to a +4. I doubt it. But it is not going to be the birdie fest that you typically get at resort style courses like the Mexican Open or other courses that have started off the season. And a little background, course history really hasn't really mattered to the champions of the past winners here at the Honda/Cognizant Tournament Open. They've all, in the previous years prior to them winning, have done pretty shitty. They've either been in the top 30, top 42, 50, not made the cut. So, of course, history really is not a huge variable, although Chris Kirk is the lone wolf and lone variable in that little.
I would say also Shane Lowry. We're going to talk about both of these players, Chris Kirk and Shane Lowry. While Kirk is that reigning champ and came in 7th, Lowry tied for 5th and came in 2nd the year prior. So I'd say those two perhaps are the lone wolves. Maybe.
The lone wolves. And it's not a very long course. It's very challenging. There is there's a lot of par threes. There's some par fours. There's a 175-yard par 3, but it also has the highest bogey rate on the course.
Oh.
So it is a very pinpoint and like shape your shot type of course, which is why, like, for some reason, Kevin Streelman has done well here. Like, he's been in the, he hasn't been in the top tippy top, but he's been in the mix, and he's so far every time he's played it, he's made the cut. It is a old man style course, so it doesn't behoove you to be a bomber off the tee, but it does behoove you to be accurate off the tee.
I like that. I like it. When we look at the top most expensive players, we see Rory far and away above everybody at 12K. We talked about this last week with Tony Finau being at 12K. Do we play Rory at 12K this week?
No, I don't think Rory's going to be the guy that's going to get you there at 12K. You're basically at 12K for Rory. You're hoping that he wins, but there's no leverage play there, right? So everybody else is on him. I think his ownership currently is at. Let me look at my crystal ball, and I can't bring it up right now, but I think his ownership is fairly high. It is at 13%, 14% as we speak right now. And a lot of people will have him on their list and adding them to their pool. So at 12,000, that's not much of a leverage play. That's just saying he's definitely going to win, and I'm putting him into my pool, and I'm going to get different somewhere else.
Okay.
So
you are going to play him?
No, I'm not going to play him.
Okay. I'm not going to play him either. I mean, I want to, and it's like, yay, I hope he does well, but man, that is steep. To me, that's like the name, like we talked about last week. Finau was like one of the biggest names, so pricey. But as you go down the list, there are plenty other plays that you could spend money on this week. Let's talk about your two most expensive that you have on your list. Eric Cole, Ben on 9995. You're willing to pay up for them?
I'm willing to pay up for them. Eric Cole, out of one side of my mouth, I said Rory's too popular. Eric Cole is by far the most popular player so far on ownership projections. But I'm getting very different in my value plays, and we'll get to that. But they both, for my model that I put together, I was looking for approach. Those that putt well on Bermuda. We're in resort. We're in California, we're in Mexico, and they had different style greens, POA and other stuff. Here is our first foray into Bermuda, which means it's going to be tight and fast. So when we look at that, we look at the stimp meter. So anywhere between 11 plus 12, it's fairly fast. And so I looked at and made my model on 3-putt avoidance, bogey avoidance, approach, accurate off the tee. And this is where Rory falters. He's driving distance 324 yards, driving accuracy 55%, which compared to others, I'll pay less to get a little bit more. So
I was just pulling up, well, at least on Data Golf, their rostership projections still have Rory at 21.5% of rosters, Russell Henley at 19% of rosters, and then Eric Cole and Ben On both at 17% of rosters. And there are at least 10 players in between all of them. So
yeah,
pretty interesting.
I think it's interesting. I think Benny On will be an interesting play as well. I think he'll actually do better than Eric Cole. The thing I worry about Benny On is his driving accuracy. He's pretty good on approach, does fairly well in windy conditions, and his approach and off the tee has been okay. But overall, he's been good at ball striking, and that's where I kind of need him at. I just hope that his putter, he brings his putter with him.
Right. When I look at these in this tier, I like JT Poston, the postman, as you like to say, 9.8. So up there with the rest of them on DraftKings. And he is at about, it's going to be 15% rostership by the end of the day. And I guess I like him because when I look at everything, the tour projections have him up there near the top. So to put this in perspective, everybody, Rory is projected to make the cut. 82% likely he'll make the cut. The next second, Ben On at 72% likely to make the cut. So it's kind of weird how these percentages come out. But then you have JT Poston at 71% likely to make the cut. And he is still pricey like the rest of them, but it just goes to show he's in that same realm of data, same realm of projections. I like him this week too, but I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I like him. Like I said, he doesn't hit it long, but we don't need it long.
Right.
Hits it about 297 yards, but his accuracy off the tee will be key. And I think his 69% greens and regulation helps, and his 28 putts per round is pretty stellar for this type of course.
That's good to know. Then we have two players. We have four players that we discussed before the show that I'm actually on the same page, but two in particular I also have listed in my notes. We have Chris Kirk and Shane Lowry, 94K, 93K on DraftKings. What do you like about them?
Well, Chris Kirk was my number one in the model, in my particular model. His driving accuracy is 62%. Has a low putts per round, and his approach and overall ball striking has been fairly decent, and he does fairly well at average to difficult courses, which this is going to be. So I like Chris Kirk. I think he'll do okay. I don't know if he'll win, but I think he'll do okay. And he's played this course before, and he does pretty well at this course. I don't think course history plays a huge factor in it, especially this tournament. But I think those that kind of have that course memory, that muscle memory per se, down, I think they'll do well.
Yeah, as we already discussed, he's the reigning champ. He came in 7th the year before, and he actually came in 25th in 2021, which is nothing to sneeze at when you're talking about fantasy golf. So Chris Kirk does have the course history. We can harp on it all we want and just hope that it holds in this year. Then we have Shane Lowry, which we discussed, tied for 5th last year, 2nd in 2022, tied for 36th in 2021, which is middle of the pack to finish. What do you like about Shane Lowry this year?
Driving accuracy, 65%. That's what I like about him. I need him accurate off the tee. His approach has been pretty stellar. For the last 10 tournaments, he's gained about 2 strokes on his approach. Off the tee, he's still getting strokes, and overall ball striker, he's good. His putting has been okay. Like, he's barely losing any strokes there. He didn't fare well at the Mexican Open, but I don't think he was giving his all. So I like Shane Lowry as one of my top tier guys.
Let's talk about some of these mid-tier guys. I also like the 2 of these. They come up often as we talk about these rando tournaments and not so rando tournaments. Stephan Jaeger has probably been in our pool every single week so far this season. And then we've got Sepp Straka, who was one of our fave value picks, I think, last year. Both of them coming up, though, in the 8s. 8-8 for Jaeger, 8-6 for Straka. What do you like about them?
Jaeger has some history here. Again, I keep saying that history really doesn't matter, but if you keep on it, like if you have that kind of muscle memory to it, then I think he'll be fine. I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that kind of sneaks into the top. But 59%, 60% driving accuracy, and 70%, 71% greens in regulation, I'll take that. He just needs to win out on his putter. And at the Mexico Open, he came in 3rd, and he was gained 4 strokes putting, which is a little outrageous. You don't expect that on most tournaments. But yeah, I think it's when we're looking for pinpoint accuracy and those can get it done with a flat stick, I think he's going to be in there.
When we look at Jaeger and Straka, both of them are in the top 15 when we look at some of these prediction models. So I like that about them, especially at this price point, because it feels like a bit of a value, even though you're still in the 8Ks.
Yeah, and Sepp Straka does really well at like difficult courses. Like I think that he gets challenged, and if he doesn't have to rely on his driving distance, he's good. I mean, 85% driving accuracy. He plays well in windy conditions, which may happen here. So yeah, and he came in 5th last year at the Honda/Cognizant Open. So
that's fun. Well, I only have one guy that I kind of listed out here in the 8Ks. I liked Luke List randomly, or maybe not so randomly. 8.1K on DraftKings just seemed really reasonable for Luke List, as hot as he's been. He feels like he's been the hot hand. He's been playing really well for fantasy. He's been bringing in a lot of points. The tour predictions that I've been sharing today have him up there in the upper half of finishers. And one of my favorite tools that you got me hooked on was this course data history diamond-shaped thingy. And you know what? It did not steer me wrong last year, so I still love to look at it. Luke List's little diamond-shaped skill set thingy is identical to this course's needs. So I found that super interesting, and I feel like I have to play Luke List now at this point.
if he's a perfect fit, then yeah, why not?
If it fits, it sits.
That's right.
I
so
just
yeah,
really
I think
liked
Luke,
it.
I like Luke List. I think he's okay choice. I was like, why did I not put Luke List
Okay
into
choice.
my?
I want to know why he's not on your list. In the meantime, I actually think I might be able to share. I want to show. I took a screenshot. Let's see if I can manage this. I'm going to try and manage this. Hold
And
on.
this is where we cut off the feed.
And this is where we die. Just kidding. Okay, I'm going to try this. Let's see if it'll let me share this little thing.
Do it in broadcaster mode.
Window.
News
Share.
layout.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Look, they're like twins practically. He falls a little short. He does fall a little short in putting in around the green, but I say close enough.
Yeah. So on that particular tool, did you hit the little mark that says what are the true fit things?
Probably not. Let me see. I can
It
do
should
that
be
right.
upper
Probably not.
right.
Probably not. The relative importance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's probably not going to be as good. It's not as good.
It's not as good.
But you know what? I'm going with my intuition.
Go with your intuition. Like, there have been times before where people were like, I don't know, and people have talked them off the gut instinct, and lo and behold, the guy does well.
I feel like it's great at 8-1. He's up there in those make the cut projections. He's been playing very well. I'm feeling good about it.
70% greens in regulation, does well in difficult courses, plays well in windy conditions. I can see why he's projected. I don't know if
Is this where you think he gives out?
he might be one of those guys where you kind of have to sweat it out. We'll see.
Okay, let's talk about some value picks. Who are some of your favorite values this week?
Well, this is where it's going to get a little different. So some of my value picks are Justin Sue, Brandon Wu, Lee Hodges, Tim Duncan, not that Tim Duncan, the other golfer, and then Ben Martin. Mm-hmm. And when I put my model together, they had come up, and they came up fairly high. And I was like, but it's Lee Hodges and Ben Martin, Justin Sue. Is my model off? Do I need to do anything? I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go with what I have, and that's it. So that's where we're going with.
I like it. I don't hate it.
Yeah, so Ben Martin's third in my model, and he ranks well for approach on par 3 strokes gained. He does well on bogey avoidance, shots gained total. And Justin Sue is actually second in my model. He's number 1 in shots gained par 4. Bogey avoidance, he's doing well at. And Tyler Duncan, not Tim Duncan. I don't know why I said. I confused myself.
Tyler Duncan, not Tim Duncan.
Yes. And so Tyler Duncan is actually third off the tee in this particular model. And the way I created my model was like, give me people that do well on hard courses that are difficult, scoring the par, hitting fairways average to difficult, and green speed is fairly fast. And so that's how I created my model. I also have in my model off the tee approach around the green as 3% weighted. So it's in there, just way down. Putting, shots gained par 3, shots gained par 4, proximity 125 to 150, 3-putt avoidance, and bogey avoidance are my model mixers.
I like it. I can get on board with that, Justin. He kind of falls in where I was ranking my value players. I am right now currently in love, maybe leftover love from last week with Doug Ghim. I like
Ghim Reaper.
Ghim Reaper. I need him to come on tour here so I can yell out the Ghim Reaper.
I'm sure he'll love it.
Just like the Todd father did, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I like Ghim this week. I like Detry, and I'm going to pull in some Bhatia. Why not? Why not at this price? We've got them priced from 7K to 6.8K. Justin Suh falls right in there. I have Brandon Wu on my fantasy bench, and you're like making me feel like I should pull him off, but I don't think I will. In DFS, I like it as a value, but I'm like, oh, I don't know about my week to week fantasy. What do you love about Brandon Wu? Tell me right now.
What do I love about Brandon Wu on the spot? Brandon Wu.
I want to know because I'm like, do I actually play him this week? I don't know.
61% driving accuracy, 70% greens in regulation, does well in windy conditions, does okay in difficult courses, not the best. But
he's actually right up there with Justin Rose when you look at the odds, and they're like ages in between when we talk about cost.
He came in 14th last year at the Honda. And the way he shook out my model, he was up there. He did miss the cut in 2022. And he's missed the cut the previous year. But he's up there in my model. So I told you before the show started, I was like, I'm just going to stick with my model. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. You know, if I was doing my segment this week, which I didn't prepare for this week, that could have been it. It could have been, why pay for Justin Rose when you can have Brandon Wu? Yeah. That might have been it this week, to be honest with you. So great value pick. I'm definitely considering. I like it. Is there anybody else you're dying to talk about this week?
Not this tournament, no.
It is going to be rough. I mean, we've talked about Tyler Duncan, Brendan Wu, Justin Suh, Ghim, Detry, Bhatia, all great value picks. I threw in Luke List. We both love Lowry and Kirk. I threw in Poston. You've got Eric Cole, Ben On. We love Kirk, Lowry, Jaeger, Straka. Little Suh action. I think it's good. We have a good lineup this week.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I did our stats, and we were at 82% for making the cut.
Yay! Good job. Good job.
There's a little slight help there from the Pebble Beach Open. That was a no-cut tournament. The Excel sheet would not let me, unless I did the formula difference, would not let me calculate. So I was like, yes, we'll drag it down.
We'll just do that. It's fine. If we pulled it out, I think we'd still be comparable.
Yeah, I think altogether it was, if we took it out, it went from like 82 to 76, 77%. So it was like a huge drop.
Is freaking ridiculous. I think our picks have been fire this season. They were fire last season. We were still around 78% last season. Stick with us, friends. Let's do it.
EVR was almost up there. We had Cameron Champ last week. And then like we almost had the winners in each of the we talked about.
It's so true.
They fizzled out.
But I did win my FSGA league last week. I'm currently in second place. Nice. Feeling good. I won everybody, not just mine. And I used many of our picks from last week because they happen to be on my team, which is one reason I didn't bring up Eric Van Rooyen this week, because I'm like, I can't talk about him 2 weeks in a row when he's on my team. But
the model did not like him.
I mean, I hate that because I'm going to play him on my fantasy league, not to be confused with DFS fans. Do not confuse this. He just happens to be on my bench, just like fantasy football, but he falls into that value group that we discuss. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, but I don't really have anybody else to play. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But I love it. Thank you so much, Adam, for all of your insights this week. And I know we're just going to keep killing it. Let's keep it lighting it on fire. All of the sounds and things. Until next week, let's go out there and win some tournaments. Bye.